So it looks like the final nail is going into the coffin for what's happening with Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. And you know what? This is one of those situations where I'm like, this is a good thing. This is not a good game. Awful use of the characters. And how can this even be related to the Arkham universe? There are many things wrong with this title. There was no saving this at all. This is a product of its current time, where these developers and storytellers wanted to destroy what we all once loved, what other talented people were able to build up and make. And then these hacks come in and wipe away all the goodwill that was built up, all the awesome stories that were told, thus proving that these developers really have no place in this medium. When you take established and beloved characters like this, and then just absolutely ruin them, how do you think people are going to respond to that? I think many are just sick of these postmodern, lazy deconstruction stories, and want to get back to some traditional storytelling. I mean, you can do deconstruction right, but here, it would seem that Suicide Squad couldn't get anything right, and now they are being made to really deal with those consequences. Like, how did we even get here? I remember when this game was being advertised. I was like, this kind of feels wrong just from the concept alone. The idea of going after some of our favorite DC heroes and needing to hunt each one of them down. I'll admit that the concept is interesting, but how will you do it? How are you going to make it so that the player doesn't feel horrible or turning them into a villain of some kind? Exploring the bad guys is definitely an interesting story to tell, and maybe an even more talented crew of writers and developers could have pulled this off. But this seemed like a horrible direction to go in, especially after making great single-player Arkham games. If there was going to be a new live service game, I wouldn't be like, yeah, get the guys that made those awesome single-player games to then make a live service game, focused on co-op and all of that. I think if you asked many fans what direction Rocksteady should have gone in, I think most would have said to make a Superman game, or tackle another DC hero, giving the Arkham games some time to rest. I don't know what they could have done for Superman, or another hero, but I do know that the prior team of Rocksteady, the ones that made Arkham Knight and Backward, they could have made a better game than say what we got with Suicide Squad. There were many errors with this title, a big one being that the publisher probably wanted to chase after that live service craze, and cash in on it. The big problem with that is that these games take forever to develop now, and by the time you got your new game out, you're going to be very late, and then other elements surrounding your title are not very good either. What the players are left with is a disrespectful game that feels like a poor version of something to cash in on with some current hot craze thing going on in the industry. What you should have done instead is maybe focusing on what the studio does very well, and that probably would have been better off and a more profitable option. I think something that was a huge misfire right from the word go with this title was how they wanted to make it a part of the Arkham universe. Why? Just because us players love those games, you want to piggyback off of it, what some true talent actually made, and make your crappy game off of it that does nothing but destroy it. While I do not think it would have improved the game much, but I think it would have been better if the Suicide Squad title was not connected at all to the Arkham games. Have it be its own separate thing. Do not have it take place after Arkham Knight. I think the removal would have helped the game, but the game would still not have been good, which is why this game struggled anyway, because by having this title take place after Arkham Knight, it makes it feel like these developers, the story is just spitting all over these prior great games. A great example being Batman is then killed in this title. What an insult to this character, and that's the best use you can think for him? Oh wow, Superman is bad again. Again, you can have stories like this. Even in the Justice League fighting game, it was interesting seeing bad Superman play out. But it was also awesome being that you could bring in Superman from our reality to then kick the crap out of bad Superman. That release towards the end of that game was so well done. Here in the Suicide Squad, we have a lot of ho-hum storytelling, or just a bad use of the characters. I know this sounds dumb and I'm not a writer, but why not make all of these bad versions of the characters clones or something? And then maybe the Suicide Squad needs to kill the bad versions of them, and then the real versions end up teaming up with you. Also, why in the story is Wonder Woman the only hero that is treated with any level of care and grace? I know that Rocksteady apparently has some progressive infiltration of their studio, and I wonder if it plays into the poor storytelling too. Shame and kill all of the male heroes, but not Wonder Woman. We can't do that to her. It was unfortunate that this would be the last game that Kevin Conroy would voice Batman for. What a horrible last game to give your performance for. I know for one I will not remember this game, and just remember the prior great ones. I'm not super familiar with everything that happened to Rocksteady from the time of Arkham Knight to Suicide Squad. I know many of the key talent and leadership have left to even create their own new companies. Because when you look at Rocksteady now, it's like, how did this once great studio turn into absolute crap? This was the talent that brought us Arkham Asylum, City, and then Arkham Knight. Hit after hit after hit. I mean, even their first game, Urban Chaos, was a great first-person shooter as well. They were hitting the ground running from the beginning. Plus, when you go back to their Arkham games, they knew how to honor a legacy, honor someone else's established character, and then make something original that was an absolute blast to play. It was smart of Rocksteady to even bring on Paul Dini, one of the main talent from the Batman animated series and other DC animated shows of the time. He was a writer on the first two games, and was even cited as the Batman lore guy for those projects. Rocksteady was making the right moves then, showing that they cared and most of all delivering. Bringing on Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill were again two great decisions, for their voice cast and for their game. Here I want to remember just a bit of the greatness that they provided us. I want to cover more of the Arkham games on the channel. I love them all, especially the one Rocksteady didn't make with Origins 2. Very underrated. But Rocksteady was kind of in a situation where they very much built up the faith for me. Like I'm like, okay, they're making a new game. I think it will be good, I cannot wait to see what they'll work on next. And yet, at everything related to Suicide Squad, this had me concerned. I knew I should have had faith in Rocksteady, because of their prior efforts, but something just didn't smell right. It didn't pass the sniff test, and as the game was being shown off more and more, getting closer to its release date, it very much seemed that this didn't look like the same developer I once knew, but it looked like a complete inversion of what they once were. I barely even recognized this studio at this point, and it would appear that all of the good people have either left or been pushed out, and then in their place were people that lacked the talent that built up this once great studio. It's now just a place for those who want to do their own thing, tell their own story, without any regard to what came before. Insert some sprinklings of progressive nonsense for good measure, and now we are seeing another studio that we might even see their end coming soon. At this point, what even is Rocksteady? Like I said, the talent left, the talent we care about, is gone. I don't think the studio could give us a good Arkham game again. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they prove that they can actually do it again. I'd gladly praise it if they could. But as it stands right now, Suicide Squad is done, finished and ending, and it will be known as a Herculean failure. What are your thoughts on Suicide Squad? Do you have the same issues that I had? Did you happen to even like this game? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.